recognize that tune, and you know it's time for Relics Radio. This is a family-friendly show, so the entire family can join us as we talk metal detecting and relic hunting. You can call into the show at 270-495-0315 or join in the chat and post any comments or questions you might have, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. You're listening to Relics Radio of Southern Kentucky and Middle Tennessee. Well, we've got a little bit of live stuff right here. We've had some more technical difficulties. I don't know what the deal is on that. Got Larry Stevens in, got Ohio Relic Hunter, got Forrest Annette. Dennis is in, and Paul is in. I had everybody hooked up there a while ago, and there's Ron Reed. And we were getting a lot of crackling and interference and everything. And I hope the audio is sounding all right here. But I'm having trouble getting Skype hooked up. I will still try and call maybe Tennessee Jeff here on the Skype number and see if I can get him in. But I do have our guest tonight. I've got Ben in with History Hound Detecting. And are you there, Ben?
I'm here.
Well, that's good. That's good. Hopefully, and Matt Perdue is in and said everything sounds good. There's Deus and Dog, Ohio Relic Hunter. Let's see. Dennis is in. Larry Stevens is in. We've got quite a few people that are in right now. And I hope that we get Tennessee Jeff in just a little bit. We're going to be a little bit hampered on what we can do, I think, tonight because of the situation. I'm normally run 2 or 3 computers and everything here, but anyway, hopefully we'll get Skype all figured out here in a minute. And there's some other shows that are having trouble with Skype right now for some reason, and I don't know what that reason is. But we've done pretty good with it since we got our new system and everything in. But not tonight. While we're talking here, I'm just going to restart this other computer, and maybe that will do something. But anyway, Ben, good to have you. How's things been going?
Man, it's been going pretty good. I can't complain, and I appreciate you having me on for sure.
Well, I've been looking forward to this show, and your YouTube name there kind of tells a little bit of a story because you are a history hound, aren't you?
Yeah, it does. It's one of the few good choices I ever made with that name. You know, I thought quite a while about what to call the channel, and kind of wanted it to reflect me. But, you know, even at the time I was starting that channel, I wasn't exactly sure what kind of digger I was going to be, whether it was, you know, coin shooting or what. And history, it's always been a love of mine, and so it's fit well.
Well, it shows in the videos that you do as well. You and I are a whole lot alike because if you haven't watched any of Ben's videos, you know that he does something similar to what I do with history clips, don't you?
Yeah, I do. It's not quite as old a history, but what I find, I do like to try to. I say it a lot of my videos. I like to try to tell a story. Yeah,
and. You know, I think that's what everybody likes, and that's what everybody wants to see on a video is, you know, a little bit of information, a little bit of background on it. How long have you been detecting?
I was actually looking back at my YouTube video, the very first one I ever posted. I think I had an Ace 250 for about 2 weeks, and I knew I wanted to video the hunts, but I'm guessing that's going to probably be just a little over 2 years ago.
Well, you've done well in 2 years, so you just jumped right in with both feet, then, didn't you? As far
I did.
Yeah,
I did. It was kind of an odd thing for my personality. My wife will tell you I'm about one of the shyest people you ever meet. I don't do well in crowds, and I don't like having my picture took, so it don't make a lot of sense that I film myself. But the history's something that I love so much that I just kind of had to share it.
Well, I'm still working on stuff while you're talking. Go ahead and tell us about Ben and history, hound detecting. What made you want to get into, other than the history part of it, what made you want to get into metal detecting?
You know, I wish I had gotten into it years ago. I've always had a fascination, with history. I was that little kid that constantly had his head in the dirt. I remember the very first arrowhead that I ever found. And just, any little old thing that I picked up, I wanted to know what it was, how old it was, and who had it before me. And I don't know why I never thought of metal detecting. I think I did what a lot of people do, and they associate metal detectorist with a treasure hunter. You see the guys out there on the beach, and you just think they're looking for pirate treasure or something. And I think most people don't really associate the hunt for history with metal detecting, and I think that's why the vast majority of people do it, to be honest with you. And so I don't know. I think I saw some YouTube videos, and I wish I could say who was the first YouTube video I started watching, but it was just like a light bulb went off in my head. And I'm a pretty busy guy. I've got 4 youngins, and I'm a pastor, and I work full time. So, deer hunting and a lot of the other hobbies guys get into, I just didn't have a lot of time for. But this is something that I realized I could squeeze into my schedule. And, man, once I started doing it, I knew I'd found something that I loved.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. It just kind of jumps out and grabs you, doesn't it? I mean, I started metal detecting when, I guess it was probably, and I'm going to give my age away here, but most of you that's ever seen my videos know I'm an old man anyway. But I started metal detecting in 1976, and now I didn't do it continuously. I haven't done it continuously. I took some breaks from it and everything, but a lot of people look at metal detecting as being something that old men do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
it's those guys out on the beach, you always see doing it.
Yeah, yeah. And I've done a little bit of beach detecting, not a whole lot. Tennessee Jeff, are you on?
Yes, I'm on. Yes.
Well, good. Yeah. Good. I got you. I finally got you on.
No, I'm not hearing him, Seven.
Do what?
I'm not hearing him.
No.
You're not hearing me, Ben?
No, he won't be able to hear you.
Okay.
And I may try, since I've got Jeff on, I may hang up on you, Ben, and go ahead and try to get you on Skype too. I just went ahead and restarted the computer and everything. And I don't know if I can add you back in this. I should be able to, but I'm going to let it kind of work here just a little bit. And
okay.
Well, I'm afraid to try it, just to tell you the truth.
Technology's wonderful, ain't it?
I tell you, it is. I think I can.
When it works, it is.
When it works, it is. I think I can add you. So let me do this. Yeah, I'm going to hang up on you right now, okay?
All righty.
Okay, well, we should have Ben in again here in just a second, and if we don't, I'll call. Hey, got everybody on Skype. Go ahead and talk to him, Jeff, and see if he can hear you now.
Ben, can you hear me now?
I hear you now, loud and clear.
All right.
Oh, well, that sounds good. That's good.
We actually start everything about 10 minutes till. We're going to start at 5:30 next week because there's always and I found out what was going on. Skype was trying to update on me, so I've got it locked out from doing that. Ben, me and Jeff, we've had quite a week, I tell you, this last week, and I'm not talking about necessarily on finds. We went down into Tennessee and hunted with the group formerly known as Dig Dogs, and I don't know if you want to call them the Mountain Goat Boys now or the Matadors from Murfreesboro. What do you say, Jeff?
Oh yeah, we had a pretty good time, and after the Matador episode, then we turned into Mountain Goats, but. Yeah, we had a little bull to get after us. So, well, he wasn't a little bull. He was a pretty good-sized bull. And I think if he hadn't have slipped in the mud and fell, I believe he would have got me. So I'm really not for sure. But, I mean, it was an adventure. Let's just put it that way. But we had a great time. We did. And
we did.
I mean, it was one of them hunts to mark up on the board that you had a great time. So.
And, you know, Ben, you can relate to this. You know, whenever you go out and you hunt, you've got all these stories that you can tell about things that you found. But some of the best stories that you tell are the experiences that you have. And what Jeff is talking about, we went down and hunted with Tim Henderson and Ron Reed down at Murfreesboro, and a good field down there that Civil War soldiers camped in. And there were some cattle in the field. Of course, most every field we hunt, there's cattle in it. We never have any problems. Mm-hmm. But they had a bunch of heifers in there, and those heifers were feisty. They were jumping around and everything. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, the bull got mad, and he started jumping around, and then kind of moving out in front of the heifers and everything. And me and Ron, we had went on, and the bull kind of got in behind us, or kind of came out after we were gone. And he made a beeline for Jeff and Tim, and they kind of got along a fence line in a bunch of brush. And what'd you say to that bull, Jeff?
Well, when we first got there, I was wondering, I seen all the heifers come running up, and I was like, well, where's the bull? And nobody said anything at first, and then they were all like, well, there's the bull. And then, of course, I'd hunted with bulls before, and, I mean, they've all been pretty good. And then, but this one, I looked at him and told him, you could tell he was getting a little feisty, like he was getting kind of aggressive. And I looked at him, and I told him, I said, no, you don't be acting stupid. And then, well, I guess he took that the wrong way, buddy, because he had it out for me after that. He was trying to get me, and then luckily I got across the fence quick enough where he didn't get me. But I heard Seven say, watch it, Jeff, and then I turned around and I looked, and the bull was on the ground, and I was like, what's going on? And then he finally got up, and then he was just pawing the ground and snorting and spitting and going crazy, and I was like, well, I better get out of here. So I finally, of course, I threw my detector and shovel across the fence, and then here I was trying to watch him and trying to get across the fence without getting tangled up in the barbed wire all at one time. And then luckily I finally got across the fence without him getting me. And then, of course, at this time, Seven and Tim?
Me and Ron.
Yeah, you and Ron. Y'all put up a little gap, little piece of barbed wire going across the gap where they couldn't get over to the next field. And we walked around, and it wasn't just a minute later. Here they come running out of the fields like, they got through our gap, and then here they come again. So.
They busted it. How about you, Ben? What kind of experiences have you had with animals out in the field before?
Well, I tell you, Jeff, that's a mark of a true detectorist right there. The detector gets saved first.
That's right. It sure does.
you guys were talking last week. I was listening in. Y'all were talking, or I don't know, maybe it was an earlier episode, but y'all were talking about snakes a while back.
Mm-hmm.
And, running up on snakes. And when I first got started, of course, I'm up here in the mountains of western North Carolina. And to be honest with you, I had heard of rattlesnakes, but I had not seen a rattlesnake until probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And it's an area, it's pretty mountainous that I was in. And I had just got started detecting, not been that long, and I covered a rattlesnake with my coil. And I never saw the booger until I was right over him. And I tell you, that took years off my life right there. It's the first time I'd ever heard a rattlesnake sing, and it ain't like that on those old Western TV shows. To me, it sounded like you'd left a cell phone sitting on a table on vibrating it and goes to buzzing. And gosh, I heard that and just about died, but I survived it. I won't say he survived the experience too well, but I made it out all right.
Mark,
well, that's good.
Did you see? And by the way, Ben, I don't know if you've got Skype up or not, but if you do, you can look in on the chat and everything as everything goes as the show goes along. Mark Hoover said you don't have to run faster than the bull; you just have to run faster than 7. What are you saying, Mark? You sacrificing me?
Well, see, when it was 3 of us there, I mean, it was safety in numbers. And then, but after I got split up, and then, of course, he was after me for some reason. And I mean, I guess because he got mad at me for telling him not to act stupid. But, I mean, he was going to show me stupid one way or another. But luckily, it all turned out good. And then we turned into mountain goats, and then we were on this hillside. I mean, this is the steepest hill I've ever hunted on. I mean, you could barely stand up, but, I mean, the soldiers, they were actually using the hillside as for target practice. And I ended up finding a couple of bullets, and you found a couple of bullets too, didn't you, Seven?
Yeah. You found a couple of sharps. I didn't find the sharps. That's what I wanted, but Ben, this thing was straight up and down. I'm telling you, and it was. Jeff said that's a place for a young man to hunt, and I said, "Ain't no doubt on that." And if I go back there and hunt that, I want a sky hook with a rope and a harness to hold on to me. I lost my pinpointer. Jeff luckily found it, and it was an ordeal, I tell you. Let me run down. Go ahead.
I was looking at some of Ben's videos earlier, and of course it's beautiful over there where you live. And then, of course, I was thinking of the hills. I was thinking of the hills that you hunt on, and then that's about like the ones we were on when we were finding them bullets. So, but yeah, they were steep.
I was wanting to try and name everybody that had come in. Deborah Minnick is in. I'm just kind of going to go down the list right here. Mark Hoover, Larry Stevens, Matt Perdue, Carl with the Yard Dogs, Ohio Relic Hunter, Mark Hoover, and I'm Paul Farsay is in. Matt Perdue, and I may mention somebody twice. Forstinet is in. Let's see, Deus Digger is in, Deborah Minnick, and I don't see
Ohio Relic Hunter.
Yeah. Dennis is in, and maybe I got everybody. But we do appreciate you guys, and I want to take a moment and recognize that you're in. What's the weather like up your way or over your way, Ben, right now? Are you getting to hunt?
It's nice. Yeah, today, earlier this week, or last week, I should say, Friday, I tore my hand all to pieces, lifting a refrigerator of all things, and got my hand hung on a piece of metal and just ripped 2 fingers, all the pieces. And so that had me stalled a little bit on detecting. I got some stitches and stuff I'm taking care of. But today was the first day I got to get out. And had my old hand wrapped up there and everything, and did just a little bit of hunting. And that's most of my hunting. It's a rare day that I get, a 3 or 4 hour hunt in. And I can count on one hand the amount of times that I've hunted all day. Most of my hunts are anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. And that's just the way I do it. But I'm doing it, as much as I can during the course of a week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the way.
I know. Me and Seven. Yeah, we hunted the other day, and then pretty much. How many hours do we hunt? Probably 6, maybe 6 hours. And then we've decided, well, we need to cut our hunt times down because of me. I mean, I was hurting real bad, and then of course he was hurting, and I mean, we just finally was like, hey, I've had enough. We've got to go. So, but yeah, we talked about cutting our hunt times down too. So,
well, it makes.
I don't know how some of those guys get out there and go 8 or 9 hours. I mean, that blows my mind. I'm fairly young, and I don't have any interest in swinging a coil that long.
Well, it depends on what kind of hunting that you're doing. If we're in a real trashy area where you're really not swinging, you're just kind of scooting the coil around, we can hunt quite a bit more. But we were doing a lot of scouting and doing a lot of walking and trying to find some new sites, running down some leads that we had got on possible Civil War camps, and none of them turned out. But Jeff's right. I guess we probably put in 6 hours, and a whole bunch of that was walking. So I think it depends on what kind of hunting that you're doing, how long that you can.
Yeah, I guess we probably walked from here to South Carolina or North Carolina by the time we were done. I mean, we walked quite a bit that day.
Yeah.
I mean, man.
Bill Leonard is in. Uncle Bill. Hey, buddy. Glad
Hello,
that you
Bill.
could make it. Tim Henderson is in. He said he's a little bit late. Tim, you missed the conversation that me and Jeff. I said Ron and Tim they are the ones that the group formerly known as Dig Dogs, but now then, I don't know if it's the Mountain Goat Boys or the Matadors from Murfreesboro, but we discussed all of that and talking. What was your best find that you think, Ben, in 2017?
Well, I knew you were going to ask that question, and that is a hard one for me to answer. I'm going to have to give you a couple because they both rank right up there. Now, anybody that watches my videos knows that the vast majority of stuff that I'm digging is probably late 1800s, and I'm talking 1890, to right up to the mid 1900s. And I've mentioned it several times, but it's kind of it's a strange sort of thing with these mountains, and in particular where I live. They really kept settlement out for a long period of time. So we don't have colonial sites. The Cherokee removal happened in 1838, and this was Cherokee country up until that time, and so we have a pretty young history as things go. Another thing that we don't have is Civil War activity, and I have studied the books, trying my best to get on something Civil War local, but I'm telling you that's as rare as hen's teeth. There was just a little bit of troop movement, and I mean small groups, for a brief period of time. And the only battle, and you can't really call it a battle, and it's supposedly, according to local legend, supposedly the last one of the Civil War, although I've heard that repeated several other times in other places. But there was some raiders, some deserters that had posseed up and were causing havoc, and some Union troops went after them. And I actually found recorded they had 2 bullets apiece, or 6 bullets apiece, but the total number of men, there was probably less than 60 shots fired. So I got about 60 chances of finding a Civil War bullet around here, and that's pretty slim. So all that goes to say, I think one of my favorite finds is something that is Civil War, as best as I've been told and as best as everybody can say, and that would be a Confederate D-guard Bowie knife handle. And it still had the wood attached. And
yeah, I've seen that on your video.
Well, that's amazing that the only Civil War relic that you have is something that is Confederate, because that's something that me and Jeff are looking for constantly, you know.
Yeah, I know. It was a bit of a head scratcher, and I didn't even dig the thing. It was hilarious how we found it. Me and a buddy had gone into an old cabin site. When I say old, I'm talking late 1800s, best we can tell. And we had dug a little bit, and then we left, and we were going to come back the next day. Well, wild hogs come through that night and found where we had been digging, and they went to rooting. And when we come back the next day, it looked like a bulldozer had gone through the area. And I took a few steps, and that sword, that knife handle, was laying on top of the ground, just looking at me. And so that's got to be one of my favorite finds, you know. And like I said, I can't even say for sure that saw the Civil War, but the way it was put to me is, you know, those D-guard Bowie knife handles, they were made by local blacksmiths. And it's a tool that just doesn't have any good logical use other than fighting. And so, and then you see a lot of them with the Confederate Civil War tintype photos. You'll see them holding that Bowie knife.
Mm-hmm.
So that one was that's right up there. But I guess as far as what I typically find, it was a token. And it was there's a tannery that I dig in a lot of my videos, and it was one of the founding businesses of the local town I live at. And I had talked to people and asked about, you know, did this tannery use tokens? And I got a big no from everybody. Nope, never seen one, never heard of one. And I set in intentionally to try to find one. And it took me a while, but I ended up finding half of a 5-cent token with the right name on it. And since then, I've dug probably 5 or 6 of those tokens. And so I really love that find, too.
You know,
see, that's an odd-shaped token, too. I seen it today. And then that is an odd-shaped token, and I mean a real good token, too. I'd seen the half piece you found. Then you found, right after that, you found the whole one. And
yeah.
So, yeah, that is a pretty neat token. So,
and, you know, as far as a monetary value, and Plugmaster Ford came in, and he said he just got done digging and came in. But monetary value on a token, you know, most of the times, although Gordon loves those tokens, and if you're not a member of World of Tokens, you need to get on that Facebook page and share some of those tokens with him. But they
I'm a member there.
Are you? Well, good. They are a personal and you know, they have a local and a regional tie. I love finding tokens because there's no two that are alike, you know, because they were made for specific businesses and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the history behind them. You know, I don't get me wrong. I love finding, you know, an old coin, old silver. But, you know, the history's pretty well written on that thing. But when you find a token, it just opens up a whole world of, you know, who were these people and how did the business serve the community? How important was it? And just good history. I love them. Top of my list to find. Yeah,
I do too. And, you know, I've been fortunate enough to find a few along the river here, and you can always tie them to a store, a family that is still here. And Mark Hoover put World of Tokens, put a link to their channel there. I appreciate that, Mark. And, you know, for anybody that hasn't gone to, and Bill McDougall just came in. Hello, Bill.
Yeah, hello, Bill.
Anybody that hadn't been to World of Tokens, you need to go there, especially to share whatever tokens that you have found, but just to look at some good tokens too. You know, there's several of them that pop up on a regular basis there, and they do a great job with that Facebook channel. I love it because I love old history like that.
So that's one thing I've been. I've found a few tokens around here, and then I remember I found one, Cantor and Clark and Company. It had defeated Tennessee, and of course, defeated from here is probably maybe 5 miles. And then, of course, I was sitting there trying to think, well, how did that get all the way over here where I live? 25 miles without it being somebody on horseback. And then, of course, back then they didn't travel 25 miles every day. So, come to find out, it was brought over here from a Civil War soldier, is best I can tell right now. And then, of course, I'd found some tokens from the 105th Ohio Volunteer Infantry, which Shetler's tokens. Am I pronouncing that right?
Sutler, yeah.
Sutler. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So they sold items at Civil War camps. You found a Sutler token across from the store there by the infantry camp, didn't you?
Yep, that's where I found that one at. And I found one in the back there. It was Buck Latcher, I believe that it had a fist holding a beer mug, and it was from Louisville, Kentucky. And it was actually a store card is what it was called. And it was posted in American Digger magazine, and it had the rarity of an R9 or R8. I can't remember, but it was a very good token. So.
Yeah. A few more guys have come in. Want to mention them. Jim, Dump Site Digger, is in. Hello, Jim. And Missouri Mac is in the house. And I'm going to put you guys, I'm going to mute your channel for just a minute. And we're coming up on a hard break and be back with you in just a moment. If your passion is metal detecting, then you know how much your success is based on the equipment you use. Let my buddy Tim Henderson of Murray Branch Outdoors in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, help you with that. Tim is an authorized dealer of Garrett, XP Deus, Tesoro, and macro detectors and supplies. He also carries a variety of aftermarket coils. Murray Branch Outdoors is not only competitive in their prices, but the service after the sale is second to none. You know, we've all experienced those situations where we purchase a new detector and then we get out in the field and we have questions about settings or operation of that particular detector. Well, I tell you what, with your purchase from Murray Branch Outdoors, you're also going to get Tim's personal cell phone number. That's right, his own cell phone number, and you're just a quick phone call away from getting answers to those questions. Now try that with some chain store purchase of a detector. Murray Branch Outdoors also deals in used detectors, and he'll give you top dollar for your trade-in whenever you decide to upgrade. So give Tim of Murray Branch Outdoors a call at 615-948-4611 and tell him Relics Radio said hey. And we're back on Relics Radio, and glad that you could join us here tonight. We have our special guest is Ben, History Hound Detecting on YouTube, and we've been talking about tokens and things that he has found in his neck of the woods. Ben, what's the oldest coin that you've found while detecting?
The oldest one I've personally found is, I found 3 of them. I just can't seem to get any older. It's an 1883 Indian head penny. So that ought to tell you a little bit about the history of as young as what it is around here. That's, I'll take that. That's fairly old. But a lot of the folks, that watch my videos, I just uploaded one. It was right before Christmas. And it was something I never dreamed I'd see come out of the ground. And I was digging with my buddy, Andy. He's a mountain-style digger on YouTube. And just digging a spot that he had dug for some years. And it's a big old open field, and all the activity seemed to occur on one side of that field, and the other side is just silent. And I mean, the most silent I've ever heard it. You have to walk a ways to get an iron grunt. And we decided we were just going to take off and walk out there, just walk that big open field. And it didn't take long. And he said, I got something. And he dug a 1781 1 real. And get that on film, which just tickled me to death because I thought I'd have to travel to ever see a coin like that get dug.
Well, we're lucky.
That was a great find. I seen that today. I was watching your videos, and that was a great find. So I know he was happy to get that, and he was happy to be able to film it. So I mean, like you said, in your area, there's not that old of history, but somebody had that in their pocket and just dropped it, I guess. I mean, like the last one I found. I mean, you never know where you're going to find them.
No, they're always
that's just it.
They're always.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Ben.
The open field hunting, it's becoming something that I really enjoy doing it. Now, I mean, I'll dig a house site if I have one, a good permission. But just getting out there in those old cornfields and cow fields where good and well that there wasn't any structures, but people moved across them. And it makes those finds. I did it today. Just out in the middle of the field, I dug 3 objects. And the last one I dug was a little mercury dime, 1917, which was my oldest mercury dime. And I just thought, man, what are the odds of me hitting that thing out here in the middle of this field? Just makes it a special find.
You really surprised me on your last video whenever you did the history on the toothbrush, and Larry Stevens put that in there. I thought that was neat the way that you did that. You said about that hole, said you've just seen the star, of this video, and then go back over to the toothbrush and some interesting history on that. I love things like that, because we always learn something that we didn't know. And I had no idea that toothbrushes at first were, they had hog hair in them. Can you imagine putting that in your mouth?
I'd be toothless, I reckon.
I watched that video and then I asked my wife, whenever it came out, I don't know, a week ago or something, I said, what do you think the bristles on the first toothbrush were? And she sat there and thought for a minute, and she said, did they use a thorn bush? And I said, no, they didn't use a thorn bush. I said, that cut your mouth all to pieces. I had a good laugh out of that, and I told her, I said, no, it was hog hair. And she said, I'll just use the thorn bush.
I don't blame her there.
That's one of the things that I'm learning. That what you throw in that junk pouch. I guess I've been bad in the past to just look. It's an old toothbrush. It's made out of plastic. It ain't got a lot of age. But just because it doesn't have a lot of age doesn't mean that it doesn't have a good story to tell and a little something to teach. And so it makes me check that old junk bag a little closer.
Jeff,
that is right.
Plugmaster Ford said, I still use a hog bristle toothbrush. I can believe that. And he's character. And I tell you what, I don't know if he has talked to you or not, and I may be giving something away that I shouldn't, but have you seen Plugmaster Ford's lip sync videos, Ben?
I have, and I've been warned. So
okay. I can't
you
wait.
Tell him, Seven.
I can't wait to see yours. Ours was absolutely hilarious. And Quarter Hoarder is in. Hey, Quarter Hoarder.
How's it going?
His was hilarious that Plugmaster Ford did. I tell you what, if Jeff ever was to fall on the ground and his head break open, it would be a sight what a man would see living and working in that side that head.
And old Matt Purdue, how you make a pinata?
His was funny. It sure was. So obviously then, Ben, you haven't found any large scents there where you live.
No, my list of things I hope to find is pretty large. It's I try to set goals a little bit, for each year and try to make them realistic. But I'm hoping this year, and I know I'm going to have to travel, but I'm hoping this year to dig my first Civil War bullet. And then I'm not sure I'm going to even put large scent down on that for this year. I know one was found actually in town, but it's the only one that I have ever heard of being found. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. I'd say I got a better chance of digging one of those than a Civil War bullet.
Yeah.
But two things, I definitely would like to find.
Well, we can't help you out on large scents here. I was, and like I say, I've been hunting for 30 plus years, and I found my first one in 2016. And then late in the year of 2017, I found another one. And then to open the very first video of this year, I found another one, and it was on a Civil War camp. One of them was on a Civil War camp.
Do you reckon?
Go ahead.
Do you reckon? Have you changed in all those years of hunting? Have you changed the type of hunting? Are you chasing down the older sites? You think that's why you're finding them now?
Yeah. Because for a long time I was like everybody else. I just hunted, I hunted schoolyards and old churchyards and things like that. And you'll find a lot of coins and you'll find a lot of jewelry hunting like that. But probably I would say 4 or 5 years ago, I kind of did, I guess, what you did. I decided I want the older history, and I don't care, I don't care if I find a silver dime ever again in my life. I wouldn't turn one down. I mean, I've hunted some of these old spots, and like you say, people passing through fields over the years. I found 2 mercury dimes pretty close together, and, I was happy to find them, but that's not what I'm after. If I can find, some old relics with some old history to it, I'm more satisfied with that. But probably 4 or 5 years ago, I changed and started hunting like that. And Jeff has always hunted like that. I mean, he started out on Civil War sites, and then he and I started looking for colonial sites and things more. Which brings up another question that I've got. What kind of research do you do finding your sites?
Well, I use a lot of, some of the things y'all mentioned, earlier, in other shows, but the historic aerials, that was one that, I learned pretty quickly in our area. And I think you had said that, how far back did the topo maps go for where y'all are?
1929 in my area. Now, some in Jeff's area are like 1931. But
and then, of course, that was the topo map. And then, of course, the earliest one I found here with historic aerials is 1950, right around my house. And then, like a lot of the places I hunt, was 1950s. Now, I do go to Library of Congress a lot and then pull up old maps. And I've got a 1878 map. It's a tax map, and it shows locations of the old homes that were there then. And right now, Seb and I, we're in the middle of doing the, Maprika?
Yeah.
And then, of course, I've been going through the maps for the last couple of days, and actually I've got a old 1778 home, like, right here at my house. And then, I've just got to find it. I didn't realize it until after I put that Maprika in there, and then it takes me right there to that home site. So,
well, that's somewhere we can hunt tomorrow. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah.
One of the things that y'all were talking about a while back was courthouses being burned. And our courthouse here in Murphy, North Carolina, and we're the most western town in the state of North Carolina, right down in a little point there. But our courthouse got burned and blown up so many times, they got fed up with it, and we had a marble quarry just a few miles away that was known for producing just gorgeous marble. So we built our courthouse completely out of marble, and a lot of people come to see it. But we don't have those maps. And historic aerials, I think, goes back to 1935. Although there is one spot in the county, and I cannot figure it out, but the maps seem to go back to, if I'm not mistaken, it's like 1915. It's significantly earlier, but it's just one tiny little area. And so the historic aerials is something that I use. And then another thing that I like to do is go through the old county history or the county heritage books that are in the library. And there's tons of photos. And in a really small town, not a lot's changed. And you can use those old photographs, especially if they got up high, to take one. And you can spot where buildings were and where they're not now, and see how things change. And that's actually led me to a couple decent places.
There's just a world of opportunities out there. You just have to, look them up. And Larry Stevens put the link in on maprika.com. And full disclosure, we got that from History Seekers off of their podcast, and they were using that. And he did a show. Heath Jones and his partner did a show on Maprika, and then he did a video on History Seekers YouTube. So go check those out, because me and Jeff, we got started on those and actually did a couple of maps. And then Monday or Tuesday, whatever day that we were hunting, I had found an old house, and it was easy to find because the chimney is still standing. But the oldest topo map that I had showed another house close to it. And to tell you the truth, I really haven't hunted for it, but I thought, that'd be a good opportunity to use Maprika. And we did, and it put us, 20 yards from where the actual house was?
Yeah, at the most. I mean, we were right there at it. I mean, I say within 10 yards. I mean, as soon as we got there, it showed we were right there on that dot, and then we just walked around a little bit, and then he was like, "What's over here, Jeff?" And then, man, just everywhere.
Yeah, there was.
But it. Go ahead, Sam.
It put us pretty close. I'll tell you one thing that I found out about topo maps is they're not real accurate. That's not your best map to go by. They'll get you close, but they're not 100% accurate. And I used to try and on historic aerials and pulling up the historic maps from the USGS service. You can actually go in there and get a GPS marker off of those, and I've done a bunch of that. And then I wasn't having a lot of success with it, so I got our courthouse, which our courthouse hasn't changed. It's been burnt twice. John Hunt Morgan burned it the first time, probably, I think, in 1864, and then it accidentally caught fire years later and burnt twice, so that's why we don't have a lot of our records. But anyway, I thought, well, I'll just get the GPS marker on the courthouse and see how close it is, and goodness gracious, I was close to a half a mile off from that. So I knew then that, the GPS markers on some of those old USGS maps, they're really not worth anything.
Have you noticed on historic aerials that certain years of those maps are more accurate than others? For me, it's 19. Whoever drew the 1935 maps for our area, if he was still alive, I'd like to shake his hand, because he did an excellent job. I mean, he will put you right on it. But whoever did the 1950s maps, I think they spent more time drinking than they did doing maps, because you liable to end up in Tennessee if you follow them. They're all over the
place. Somebody told me that some of those map makers were drunk men following snakes.
That's right.
And that's kind of the way it is. And Bill McDougall said he uses plat maps for the 19th century. Plat maps are very accurate. And, if you get those, and Ohio Relic Hunter said there's nothing worse than doing a ton of research and then get turned away at the door trying to get a permission, And I'd say that that's the truth, too. We don't have a whole lot of trouble getting permission in our area because we live in rural areas and we know a lot of people. So, we don't have a lot of trouble with that. But we don't door knock.
See, with that, no, with that Maprika now, I did see some sites that would be good, but they've had houses built over top of them. So that's one thing that we're going to have trouble with here. And then, but most of your bigger farm landowners, they'll let you hunt with no problem. I mean, they'll just say, go ahead, and then just make sure you cover your holes back up. But yeah, we've got a bunch of potential spots now with that Maprika, and then to it. So it should be a pretty good adventure. Yeah. I'll leave out the bulls, though.
Yeah, I'll leave out the bulls. I sure want to. And I'm not really afraid of bulls, but you had him pegged right. He was stupid. And
yeah, he was stupid.
And he's not only stupid, he got mad too. And Larry Stevens says, "Yeah, and close the gates." That's exactly right. We almost lost, and I'm not talking about me and Jeff, but a guy that I was hunting with, we almost lost a permission one time because I was letting him get out and do the fences, and it was electric fence, and he, instead of hooking it back to the electric part, he hooked it to an actual barbed wire, which grounded the thing, and the guy came over and he was kind of upset about it. He said, if you're going to do this, well, you need to put the fences back the way that, and I said, well, we will. By the way, I think we got Skype up and running. I got both these guys on. If you've got a question that you'd like to call in and ask Ben or talk to Ben, the number is 270-495-0315. And the only thing that we ask is we have a family-friendly show here, so we don't want any language. But again, it's 270-495-0315. If somebody wants to put that number in the chat, if you want to talk with Ben or got a question for him or any question, really, we'll deal with that. I love talking research, though.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What have you got planned for this year, Ben?
I go pretty much week by week, to be honest with you. The only long-term plan I have is to make another trip back down to south central Georgia. And it was a hunt that I did last year, and I consider it my best hunt. I didn't find anything, but it was going back to a plantation that was built by my great-great-great-great-grandfather. And I've been fortunate that we got a lot of good recorded family history. And ever since I was a little guy, I have read about him. And he came from North Carolina, and he was a War of 1812 veteran, and went into the land lotteries down there in the 1830s and got him 900 acres and had a plantation all the way up to probably the 1880s. So through the Civil War, family lived there. And I tracked that place down, and I couldn't believe it. But that entire plantation, 900 acres, is owned by one man who knows the family history and has intentionally purchased all of the plantation land back and has made it a preserve. Yes. So,
man, that's great.
my family's buried down there. I was able to visit the graves, and then of course reading, where was the plantation house, and I'm sitting in the middle of a 5 or 6 acre open field, and I just started walking with a detector trying to locate where that thing stood, and I had 1 day to hunt, so it was kind of needle in a haystack thing, but I think I come out of there with an old bean pot, with the old 3 legs on the bottom of it, and several other things, including a little child's ring, little brass child's ring, which I really enjoyed finding that. But I know there's a whole lot more there, and it would be cool. I've got a grandfather and several of his brothers that all fought during the Civil War, and they were at Gettysburg and a lot of other battles, but they came back after the war, those that survived, and I've thought, man, what a place to find my first bullet or button. But so I plan on going back there every year and trying to break that place down, and the landowner's just wonderful and really excited about what I was doing there. So
yeah, and it sounds like that he's amenable to for you to come there and hunt and search and everything. That's great, and the family tie, that is great, and that's a place that you can things that you find there are going to have a personal tie to you, and we got a couple of guys that put the number in. Dump Site Digger, Jim put it in, Ron put it in. Like I say, if you've got a call, and Tennessee Jeff put it in. That's amazing.
Yeah. What about that?
Well, that Jeff can
I can't remember my own phone number.
I know it. But if you've, and Larry Stevens says, my question for Ben is, when was the last time he saw the skin on his face?
Hey, Seven.
What?
They just took my mom to the hospital by ambulance.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to cut this short, and thanks for everyone that's leaving a comment and stuff, but I've got to go.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yes, we'll be praying for you, buddy.
Yep, you're in our prayers.
all right, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, bye-bye.
Well, I hate to hear that.
I hate to hear that.
Jeff's mother-in-law just passed away 2 or 3 weeks ago, and so that's a bad situation for him to be in again. And as we say, our prayers are with him. And everybody's throwing in there. We've got a caller now that is coming in. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, this is Deej.
Hey, Deej, how are you doing? Good to have you on.
I'm doing good. Okay. I have a question for Ben.
Okay.
Have you ever been able to get a copy of the state land grant?
I may have dropped Ben off in answering yours. No. Let me see if I can get him back on here.
Okay.
Hey, Ben, are you there? I'm trying to call him back. I don't know why that did that. What were you going to ask him, though?
Okay. The state lottery that his ancestor purchased the land with, I'm just curious, was he ever able to get a copy of that?
Okay. I may have to drop.
I'll hang up and you ask him for me, okay?
I will. I'll do that.
Okay.
I'm trying to see if I can get him back on here.
Okay.
I don't know why we have so much trouble with this.
That's okay. I don't want to mess up your show, so I'll hang up if you can ask him that for me.
Okay, he's
just let him know I've been doing research. I just don't know what he has done on his family.
Are you back on, Ben?
I'm back on.
Okay, go ahead, Deej, and you ask him then.
Okay, Ben, are you there?
I'm there. How are you, Deej?
I'm good. Have you ever been able to get a copy of the state land lottery grant?
Yes, we do have. We have copies
Oh,
of the actual land grant itself. Yep.
Okay, because after I watched that video that you did, which by the way was fantastic, I'm a 35-year genealogist, so I don't know what you found on it so far, how much information you've got on your family, but I'd be more than happy to help. So
there was a lady in our family back in the 70s that wrote an entire book, and I'm talking it's 2 inches thick, and I can't imagine what she had to do to get the amount of research that she did, because this is before internet. She had to go to local libraries, but we have got family Bibles, land grants, tax records, the census, and all that. All that's compiled, and so I've been very fortunate to have a wealth of history on my family.
Yeah, I use my library a lot to do research on my permissions by using the Ancestry.com, because most libraries, that's free to use at the library. So you can research a name. You can research a name on a plat map and find out if they had military background, whatever, what they did for a living, and get some idea of what kind of relics you might find there. That's what I use anyway. So.
I did not realize that it was free at the library. That's handy to know.
Well, it is.
A lot of people
it is
wanna...
in Michigan. I don't know if it is everywhere, but you don't get full access, but I bet you get 3/4 access.
Hey, Deej,
everything that's available.
Have you ever used Fold 3, F-O-L-D, Fold 3? It's a military site. You have to pay to get on it.
Yeah.
Have you ever used it?
I think there's like one time each year that's free to the libraries. Because I just happened to be in researching at the library, and it was available. I was like in shock, and I got copies of the bounty land grants from the War of 1812 for my family. And it was free that particular week. So you just got to keep your ears open, and find out. I mean, they have the 7-day trial, but I don't like doing that because sometimes you have to call them and cancel it within 7 days, or they charge your credit card. So,
yeah. But
most of the information I get at the library. So I do a lot of research at the library.
It sounds like it, and that's the key to this hobby is everything that you can do to research and find as much as you can. And the resources are limitless, and with the internet and of course everybody wants money out of everything, but there's ways to find things and research things. But yeah, that's the key. There's no doubt about it.
Now, the other thing I tried is going to the state capitol. Okay, what's available on the internet for plat maps is the basics. But I've been able to go into the state library and find older maps for my area and just take pictures of my township and the townships around me with my phone to go back earlier. So that's also a possibility if you're willing to do a road trip.
Yeah, and
I'm trying to think. Kentucky, Frankfurt is your capital, right?
Yeah, Frankfurt is our capital there.
Right. So that's another way to find early maps. And a lot of times, if they're real old, they will not let you photocopy them. So make sure you take a phone in there that you can take a picture with.
Now, once you take a picture of them, though, how are you lining them up in real time on the property today?
Mine, I was only able to go back another 15 years beyond the earliest map I had, and it was the same family names, just a different generation on some of them.
Yeah.
So I got it. That's how I lined it up, was following the names.
Yeah. And what all do
because I went from one plat map to another.
What all do you have on the plantation down there, Ben, map-wise and all of that?
The maps all seem to be hand-drawn, rudimentary maps. So there wasn't a lot of that in there. It actually took me, I don't know how many years, and not intensive searching, but just in the last few years, I got real serious about finding it. But there were some creeks listed on the map, and where those creeks joined. And that really started to pull me in to the right area. And, that land actually borders Fort Benning down there in Georgia. And I was so scared that the old plantation was actually going to be on the fort property now. And very fortunate that it slams up against it, but it's not on it. So.
Well, with the fort being there, there's even more history on that plantation, though, isn't there?
Oh, very much. And my great grandfather, he served in Benning's Brigade, who the fort's named after. Him and a brother and a cousin, and so they all served in Benning's Brigade. And so, yeah, there is quite a bit of history there.
Well, I'll let you go, but I just wanted to bring that up. So
good talking
to you, Ben.
Hey, Deej,
Okay.
Thanks for calling. Thanks for sharing the information with us, and good luck on your hunts too.
Thanks. Talk to you later.
Yeah. Well, there's some good information that came right there, and
Sure is.
I apologize for dropping you off, but I think it was Matt said it's not my fault. It's a problem with Skype, and I don't know what we're going to do about that, but we have to use it,
Listen, I did want to go back. I think what you said, Larry had asked the question about when the last time I saw my face.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Everybody says, when are you going to shave that old beard off? And I tell them, if I shave my beard off, I look like a marshmallow with eyeballs. And so we ain't going there. I reckon I'll hang on to the beard. It's covering some pretty hideous sights. So.
Well, I wouldn't know you. Of course, you and I have never met. I hope that changes. I hope that you make your way to Kentucky and Tennessee sometime, or we meet up at an organized hunt or something other. You come this way, and we'll put you on a Civil War site. Guarantee you that you'll find a bullet somewhere. But that would be. I'd love to dig my first bullet with you. That's I got to admit, I don't get jealous about a lot of things, but boy, them y'all were digging that pile and pulling those bullets out, and I was dying on the inside, going, "Oh, just let me have 5 minutes there." Well, I'll tell you something. That pile is still there, and they never have. The last time that my daughter lives just a little ways from there, and when we go down, which we go down there, I have to go to Nashville once a week anyway. And but we were on our way down, and my wife said, just go straight. I want to see what is there, and can we get back to the road going to Amy's house that way? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, how do you know about all this up here? And I said, well, we've done a bunch of hunting at at the dirt pile and at Harmonica Hill. All of that is in that area. And I told her, I said, I'm gonna take you to the infamous dirt pile at the bank project there, And we drove back there probably a couple of weeks ago, and that pile is still there. And I can't wait for them to spread that dirt out, because there is a ton of relics. I guarantee you there's at least 5 more plates in that. Now, Jeff found 3, but I know there's 5 more, and plus there's no telling how many bullets. I'd give anything in the world to have that dirt pile in my yard and just sift through every bit of it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. If I were to find a plate, you just have to dig a little deeper hole and plant me, because I'm not sure the old heart would survive that. Man, what an incredible thing to find.
Yeah, I found a breastplate, but I've never found a box plate, and I've never found a belt plate. And my best chance was on that dirt pile. And if you've seen that video, I was working the right side, and I was probably finding 6 or 7 bullets to Jeff's 1 on every push. And they bring a dump truck and dump probably 3 loads on a tandem dump truck, and then they'd take a dozer and push it up the pile. And we'd, of course, it'd take them probably 30, 40 minutes to get enough dirt to push again, maybe 45. So we had plenty of hunting time, to cover that little small area. And I was going up the right side, and he was going up the left side, and I kind of felt bad about it, and I told him, I said, you take the right side this time. And the first signal he dug, he said, you're going to kill me. And I said, what is it? And he said, it's a box plate. And
oh, that's rough.
Yeah, I would have given anything to have dug it, but I'm not jealous. We all we want is to get the save the history and get it on video and document it and all of that. But we'll put you on a Civil War site here.
We'll have to talk.
Bucket list. Let's talk bucket list. You said that, and I think it's a good idea, because I guess on all of our bucket list is a gold coin. And, hunting Civil War sites, I think me and Jeff probably stand a fair chance of maybe one day finding one of those. But realistically, what would be at the top of your bucket list right now, if you just get to hunt in the area that you live in?
Probably the large scent. As far as a coin, the relics there's so many different kinds, and it's kind of hard to pick a bucket list relic unless you're doing something specific like Civil War. Civil War ground, and then you got an idea of what you might be digging. But yeah, I would have to say probably a large scent from my area in particular. I've kind of dug, a lot of the tokens and things that I've really wanted to find. I've dug a lot of those. So yeah, I'd say large scent's probably right there at the top.
Dave Miller said, hey, Seven, meant to tell you, we bought that dirt pile and hauled it to Oak Ridge and made it my own playground. I tell you what, there's a lot of people would like to. And Deborah Minnick says on top of her bucket list is a skeleton key. I'm going to tell you something about, and we call it bucket list, it's really, it's something that we want to find, that we think that we ought to find. A skeleton key was on mine until last year. I don't know how many different people I had hunted with that had found a skeleton key, and I never found one. And then I did find one, and I tell you what I found out. Once you break the ice, once you find that thing that you're kind of looking for, then you find 2 or 3 of them. And I don't know how many skeleton keys in my last video, our last video I think it may be one that's coming up, or it may be, I don't know. It's in one that's coming up. I've got an iron one, just the end of it. But I've probably got 5 or 6 now, and I'm the same way with a large scent. I was 30 plus years finding my first large scent, and then now I've got 3. Yeah. So, somebody said here, Mark Hoover said he'd love to find a sheriff's badge. I found one of those. Found it on the Civil War site, and actually, it was Civil War related because I don't remember all the details about it now because I gave it to the landowner, but it was related to that, and so
the bucket list items. As happy as I would be digging that large scent, still at the end of the day, if it all ended and I couldn't swing another coil again, and I had to look at what relics I dug and what coins I dug, those relics that have a good story, and I'm talking a personal story, they're always going to be the top for me. you just don't ever know when you're going to run up on them. You know, I dug this last year. I love military stuff, and I dig a lot of World War II and World War I military things in my small town. And we're not anywhere near a base. It just kind of goes to show how many people served in those wars. But it was a machine gunner's collar disc. And when I took that thing and showed it to the homeowner, and a lot of times when I'm digging a home, anything that I find is theirs. If they want it, it's theirs. I just want to film it.
Yeah. So
I took that to the homeowner, and, you know, he kind of took it and looked at it, and I thought, he's really not appreciating what that is. And I said, you know, that's World War I machine gunner's collar disc. I said, that's good history. When I come back the next day to finish up metal detecting that yard, he come out on the porch, and his arms were loaded with old photographs. He'd gone up into his attic and dug into his own family history. And it was his great uncle and 3 brothers had gone overseas in World War I and to France and had fought. And one of them was a machine gunner, and he was the one that died, and he died at the Battle of the Marne, which was the turning point of World War I. And so that was his collar disc. And I just got goosebumps, just going, my goodness, you know, these little things we dig, they can be very meaningful, and maybe just the trigger to get somebody to go into their own family history and learn a little bit. And that's worth it to me.
That's an amazing story and an amazing find. And obviously, you're proud now that you gave that to the landowner.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, it's one of those things where, and I think I even said it in my video, I love those military finds. And I'm not greedy, and I don't, you know, get jealous, but I'll be honest, when I found that, I knew it was a rare military item. And I thought, man, that would so look good in my display. And that thought crossed my mind. I'll be honest. Do I need to show this man? It was the only thing I found in his yard. Do I really need to show it to him? And I'm so glad that I did, because if I had stuck that in my pocket, that story would have never come out. And, you know, I gave that to him, and so glad that I did. But Chrononaut Metal Detectors, Joel and Ashley, I don't know if you're familiar with them. They live down in Florida. They saw that video, and they purchased a machine gunner's collar disc and mailed it to me. So I do have one in my display.
Well, that's great. That's great. You know, before I found my first large scent, I made a comment on a video that I wanted one so bad. And our county, the pioneer people that came into and really started settling our county was 1798. And I made the statement, I'd like to have a 1798 large scent. And Earl from Virginia, you may have seen his videos, he mailed me a 1798 large scent. And it wasn't long after that I actually found one, you know, after I got that in my hand. But I still have that large scent here, and I treasure it as a gift from him. And I sent him some stuff too, you know. But it's amazing, you know, what you can put your hands on, and this hobby, and you just cut a plug out of the ground, and you have no idea the history that you are about to unearth and bring back to life. And that's what this hobby is all about to me, and I think it is to you too.
Absolutely. It's that, yeah, you know, I dug that little silver dime, and 2 years ago when I started, you know, that little silver dime would have put me over the moon, but I've learned there's a lot of little silver dimes laying around out there. What I'm after is something that can turn people's minds back in time. And, you know, even I got a chance to go talk to some little kids down at a local elementary school, and it just tickled me to death. I brought in some Cherokee pottery and arrowheads that I'd found, and some metal detecting finds, some old coins, and just shared with them. I called it History in the Dirt, you know. And out of that group of little kids, there was one boy, and I'll tell you right now, He is a future dirt searcher, without a doubt. He was riveted, in particular by the arrowheads. And he come up to me afterwards and had 100 questions and just could not stop holding them with arrowheads in his hand. And that just meant the world to me, that somebody did that with me when I was a kid. And, I think it was my uncle when he showed me an arrowhead. And ever since that time, I had my head down. And so that's what I'm here to do. It's, it's definitely not something we're going to get rich on. A lot of people make that mistake of thinking that, but riches comes in many different forms, and the history is definitely something that.
Well, I lost him again. I don't know what Skype was doing right there. Let me see if I can get him back on again. Anyway, wonderful history that Ben's been talking to us about. And, I do the same thing with the Civil War stuff that I find here. I go and speak to all the schools in our county, and I take bullets with me, and while I'm talking here, I'm trying to hook him back up. But I go to those places, and those kids, I tell you what, they are just, it's worth everything in the world. I make a point to, and I don't know why the thing is ringing like it is.
I'm back.
Okay. All of a sudden, Skype updated again, and I apologize for that. We may have to find another way of doing this, or at least disable the thing from updating right in the middle of a show. But I have no control over that. I am tech savvy enough.
The bugs worked out.
Yeah, I am tech savvy enough that I can get things back pretty quick. But you didn't hear what I was sharing with everybody else. I do Civil War presentations to every school in our county, and I certainly do appreciate the school system here allowing me to do that. Of course, my oldest daughter is a teacher, and I go to the high school, I go to the middle school, I go to all the elementary schools, and I take a bunch of bullets with me, and I make sure I give a history of the Civil War in our county, and one of the schools is actually located on part of the Civil War camp. But I make a point that each one of those kids hold a Civil War bullet in their hand. And just to see the expression on their face whenever they hold that,
Yeah. Yeah, it's powerful. I really dislike the way that history seems to be taught these days, in a lot of circles. Some of the harder aspects of it are glossed over, and, holding that Civil War bullet in your hand, it really brings to mind what those men were facing, and it's something I think every kid should have opportunity to do.
And that's a hard point to deal with whenever you're talking to those kids, because you're talking about guys that were shooting at one another, guys that were killing one another with those bullets. And but I make it a point to tell them the reason that we want to save the history is not that we agree with what happened, but that we don't want to make that mistake again. And
That's right.
And I always make that point that our country can disagree on policy, our country can disagree on politics and a lot of things, but it should never bring us to the point that we divide and then take up arms against one another. We've got enough enemies in the world rather than to start fighting with one another again. And I'm afraid that, I agree with you. I don't like the way that school is taught. I don't like the way the history is taught, because they try to just, dismiss all that and not talk about it. We have to talk about that, or we're going to, we'll be doomed to repeat it, won't we? That's
it. Yeah, that's it exactly. You do with children. I mean, you have to censor yourself to some degree. They are children, young, impressionable minds. But I think that in some ways we are very much overprotective of them when it comes to history. A child learns from its mistakes, and that doesn't change as you get older. You learn from your mistakes. And so to go back and tell those stories in full color and with all honesty, and say, here's where the mistakes were made. There was a lot of pride in that war on both sides. And if some of that pride had been let go of, that all those issues could have been resolved. But, pride pushed men past the point of no return, and then you end up shooting at your brother. And,
literally shooting at your brother. It divided a lot of
Literally.
families, and especially in our area here, because our county was divided. If you get along the Cumberland River in what's called Turkey Neck Bend, where we do a lot of hunting, that was all Confederate sympathizers, and they actually had some units from Turkey Neck Bend and that area. But then the town here, Tompkinsville, it had a Union camp in it, and it was just it was completely divided, and families were divided, and brother shot against brother, and it's a situation that we just don't need to repeat that again. There's no way.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And like you say, you got to figure out how to tell those kids that. Let me bring up one other point, and it comes up every now and then at some of the presentations that I do, and I try to deal with it delicately as I can. Some of the kids, especially some of the older kids, they say, well, wasn't the Civil War about slavery? And I said, not completely. It was, there was a whole lot of it was state rights and everything. And I said, let me give you an example. There was a man here by the name of Fram, and he actually took his own money and bought a bunch of Springfield rifles and recruited a bunch of soldiers for the Union. But we've pulled up data and historical information that he had actually bought black slaves and had them in his household as slaves at the same time that he's putting this camp together. And so you can't say that it was about slavery. Now, eventually, that played a great role, and there's no doubt about that. Yeah. But it's not it's not all, and I hate to use the term black and white, but it's not all black and white. I mean, there's a lot of elements that went into it, and I want our history teachers to teach the whole story about the Civil War so that we don't repeat it again, And I fear that we're going to, the way that the country's going right now. But like I said, we've got enough enemies to fight rather than fight one another.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. That you said it just exactly right. When I was doing that metal detecting video on my family's plantation, I struggled with, mentioning the fact that this was a South Georgia plantation, and they did indeed own slaves. And in the family research that I have, there's actually lists of names, the names of these slaves listed. And I thought, how do I handle this? It's not something that I'm proud of by any stretch of the imagination. It's not something that I would, dream of participating in, but that is my family history. And so, I did bring it up in that video, and that's part of it. History is not always good, and it's not always bad, but it's a mixture of both. It's the complete story. And if you're going to tell history, we can't color code it. We can't make it like we want to make it. We just need to tell that story, and like you said, and learn from the mistakes.
Learn from the mistakes. That's the deal. And if we keep putting our head in the sand and trying to make the bad things that we've done as a country the evil things that we've done as a people, then we're going to repeat those things. There's no doubt about it. And
that's right.
You know, my dad, of course, I was raised whenever there was a lot of discrimination against minorities. I remember my family having a restaurant, and African Americans ate in the back. And I remember this was before even the Civil Rights Movement. It was probably in 1962. My mother and grandmother had a restaurant. They didn't own it, but they leased it, and they actually ran the thing. I mean, they could say who went where. And whenever I got out of school, I would go to the restaurant and wash dishes. And when my dad got off work, he would come and help clean and everything so they could close up that night. And when we would both come in, there would be black families in the back of the restaurant eating there. And I remember one afternoon, whenever my dad came in, he said, "Get all your stuff, get all your plates and all your food, and you're moving out to the front. And if you come into this restaurant again tomorrow, do not come into the back. We're not going to do this anymore." And they told him, they said, "You're going to lose your business." And he said, "If we do, we don't want that kind of business." And you would not believe the number of people that started coming to my mom and my grandmother's restaurant, black and white, eating together in the same room there. And that made such an impression upon me. But I know,
wow,
I know that, in our past and in our history, that was a part of it. And, we can't just not talk about it because it was. I don't agree with it. And a lot of people didn't agree with it, but it is a part of our history, and, it was certainly a part of the Civil War, and you've got to keep that in mind when you talk about it.
Yeah, very much.
It's been great having you on. We're up on an hour and a half right now, and I'm sure that that you think that I've kept you on here long enough, and my chat locked up a long time ago. I'm not even able to see any of the comments that anybody's making. But, Ben, it's been a pleasure having you on. You're a man after my own heart, the way that you love history and the way that you bring that history into the production that you do and your videos and everything. And I just wish you all the luck in the world. You're a young man, and you've got quite a future in this, and I especially am interested in seeing what you do with the plantation of your family down there, and what you uncover from the ground and bring back to life the history down there.
Well, I sure hope that I find something. I think if I go down long enough, I'll get on it. But listen, Seven, I appreciate you inviting me on and letting me share a little bit of my passion, a little bit of my story, and I've enjoyed talking with you, and I appreciate everybody that was listening in and called in. And there's some good people in this hobby. I'm constantly blown away by just the camaraderie and kindness of the digging community.
I agree with that 100%. And what I've been doing on every show is if you like shows like this where people talk about metal detecting, and I know we ramble a little bit, but you get off on a subject, and there are things that, that we think about whenever we're out there digging, and there are things that come to mind with us, and we kind of get off on those tantrums and talk about them a little bit. But if you like metal detecting shows, let me give you some others that are on Spreaker besides us. There's Beyond Sight and Sound. There's American Digger Relic Roundup. They're on Monday. And then Beyond Sight and Sound, they're on Sunday night and also on Wednesday night. And then History Seekers, I believe that they're on Tuesday night. And then there's Hardcore Metal Detecting and All Metal Mode. And, there's just a great community here of people and information, and so I would advise you to listen to all of those shows. They're all great shows, and you're going to pick up some wonderful information about this hobby that we all love and enjoy doing. and appreciate everybody that was in the chat tonight. I apologize for all the technical difficulties that Skype threw on us. I think it updated twice while we were in the show. Maybe they'll finally get their act together, or I'll do something here to stop that. But I apologize for that, Ben. I've had to call you, 3 or 4 times tonight.
Hey, we got it done. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. That's right. But anyway, I'm going to put you on hold for a minute, and I'll talk to you for just a minute after I close the show. But good having you on, brother. I appreciate your passion for the hobby. So good luck in 2018 and for the rest of your life.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
And we do appreciate everybody that was on Relics Radio with us tonight in the chat. Appreciate the phone calls. And like I say, once again, I do apologize for the technical difficulties that we had with Skype, but we got through the show. And hopefully we'll have all that ironed out by the next show, which will be next Thursday night. And we look forward to having all of you guys back with us again next Thursday, and joining in with everything that we do here. And I'm trying to get back to the music over here. I'm just having all kind of trouble. And before we close out, our prayers are with Tennessee Jeff again, and I hope that all of that works out with his mom, and I hope it's not anything serious, because I love Jeff like a brother, and his family has gone through a whole lot, him and his wife, Jennifer, and little Avery. So they are in our prayers. So include them in yours as well. So until next Thursday night, we bid you adieu from Relics Radio. Thank you for joining us tonight on Relics Radio. We certainly appreciate it. Be sure and join us live each Thursday night at 6 p.m. Central Time. That's 7 o'clock Eastern Time here on Spreaker. Or you can catch the archive show at Relics Radio on Spreaker, iTunes, or iHeartRadio. Please take a minute and hit the like button, and be sure and follow us so that you'll get notifications of all of our upcoming broadcasts. You can also find us on YouTube at Diggin' with 7 or Tennessee Jeff. Or you can check out our Facebook page, Relics Radio. If you'd like to get in touch with us, then send an email to digginwith7@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We hope that you'll join us next Thursday night, and until then, get out there and dig some history.